on a disk floating through space with a tiny sun.
Beaver, that's your cue. Man, you failed straight away, Beaver. What's wrong with you?
Beaver! I was on mute for
Brainy.
I was muted.
Hey.
I'm so sorry. All right, so hey everybody, how's it going? It's Fight the Flat Earth channel. We're having a discussion between Faroh Farms and Fight the Flat Earth. I'm Brainy Beaver. That's Team Skeptic right there on the side. And so Faroh, introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm Faroh Farms, the flat earther, quote unquote, for this side of the discussion. And yeah, man, this is mine and Craig's first one-on-one interaction, so it should be interesting.
I remember seeing you on a different channel. I just can't remember which one that was recently. But anyway, so Fight, you obviously we all know who Fight is, and I think we know who Team is here. So you had wanted to discuss some stuff from last week, so maybe just get started with that, and we'll take it from there.
Hold on.
Oh.
Can we
All
talk
right.
about that intro real quick?
Yeah.
Can we
yeah.
talk about the intro real quick?
What,
The
my
fail.
absolute failure? Or what?
Brainy. No, because I love you, you get a 3 of 10. If I really
Yeah,
didn't like you,
absolutely.
you wouldn't have even got a 3 of 10. That was horrible.
Yeah, that's
I'm-
generous.
I've had better
so
better
sorry.
intros practicing in the mirror 30 minutes before live shows.
I don't even
I
know
was,
if you can count it as an intro. You almost missed the
myself.
whole thing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, I
that
have
was
no defense
beautiful.
for
That's
myself other
silent. But
than
hey, I'm gonna be
saying-
honest with you though, Brainy. I'm gonna be honest with you. The least awkward point of that entire intro was the silence.
Like literally.
You know what's
Okay, now that I've
It's
properly got us going, now that everybody's laughing and blood is pumping, we can start with the intro. Fight the Flat Earth. You want to introduce yourself, regardless of whether people know you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey,
I
guys.
told you I was free.
Yeah, so literally just before this started, we were having a conversation. Right, Brainy, you'd introduce the show, and then he failed. But we love him. We love him all the same. Hey guys, yeah, I'm Fight the
I'll
Flat
give another
Earth. Welcome back to my channel once again. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you Faroh Farms for coming back. It was actually on this channel he was on also with Brainy last week against Constable Conspicuous. So you failed on all accounts there.
I watched part of that. I think I had kids at that moment.
Right, so last week there was one major thing between you and Constable that you were saying was completely possible on a flat earth, and that was to do with this picture. Do you want to tell me and everyone else again how you think that is possible if the earth is flat?
What's that? The mast over the horizon.
Yeah, the fact that there's one boat sitting on the horizon and one boat clearly past the horizon without any kind of distortion or anything on the boat in the background. And is it your do you say that if you zoomed in on that it would come back over the horizon? Is that what you're saying?
I did say that last week. I mean, the debate against Conspicuous is a slightly different matter. You know, he's a bit less able to defend certain points. So yeah, that was my assertion, that no matter how, if you zoom far enough, it will always come back into view. Now, from this picture here, it depends on the camera's elevation. You will always, due to where the horizon sits, have your optimum viewpoint, so you won't be able to see past a certain point in the horizon. For instance, if this camera here were to go lower, you would see even less of the ship in the foreground here. And no matter how much you zoom in, you would still see less. Now, that's not due to curvature in between, it's due to the elevation of the camera. So with regards to this picture, first, if you're saying there's no distortion at all, I mean, it looks extremely hazy in the background there. So I'd say that's one form of distortion, just the atmospherics alone.
Okay.
The horizon just creates the optimum viewpoint.
So when I say that there's no distortion, I mean that the shape is exactly the same. You could literally take that and overlay it on the one at the back and overlay it on the one at the front, and they would match up. So although it is hazy, the amount of actual refraction going on here is pretty minimal. And let me just get the actual video for this up. One sec.
Here
Okay.
is a video that I filmed just the other day with the P1000, and let's see what happens.
It got awfully quiet on my end. Do I still have you?
And there is a third one out here. So let's zoom in and
Can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know what's up with Craig.
Yeah, just went dead
Yeah,
silent.
Craig, I thought you were going to say
just making
something.
sure.
Is he still here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I somehow muted my microphone. I
Sorry.
apologize. Right. So let's talk again, Craig. Well done.
Russian
fail.
Vic doesn't believe you.
That's actually possible in this software, not in Hangouts. Right. So he took a screenshot of when it was zoomed out. All right, and then he zoomed in and compared it to the difference between being zoomed out and zoomed in. And what that shows is that the act of zooming in actually did nothing at all in regards to the position of the boat. So that disproves that zooming in will bring something back from behind the horizon. The only way that you could see that from behind the horizon was if you raised your elevation, which is what you would expect if you were on a sphere. So can we agree that zooming in on something does not bring it back into view if it's gone past the horizon?
No. Now you say gone past the horizon. That's an important add-on,
Right,
obviously,
well,
because when we zoomed to the start of the video last time, we all come to the conclusion that none of the ship was visible from that point, and so zooming in does bring things back into view. When you say in regards to when they've gone totally over the horizon, like I stated a minute ago, it's in relation to the camera's elevation and the horizon, and that gives you your optimum view. So no matter how much you zoom in there, the horizon will be blocking it. Like I say, if you increase your
Right.
elevation, again, as you just asserted, the
So
horizon will appear to move back.
right. But we can agree in this instance that the zooming in actually did nothing. The only difference between the bit at the top and the bit in the red is that the bit in the red is a screenshot from when it's zoomed out, and the top one is actually zoomed in. So that shows that the act of zooming in does nothing, and part of the boat is over the horizon. Part of the boat, the bottom part, has disappeared. So, and no amount of just zooming in the camera will bring that back into view. If you go back to the beginning of the video, you can't really see it, all right? But that doesn't mean that it's not there. That's just the angular resolution of the camera. But then you zoom in, and it's not bringing it back into view because it hasn't gone out of view. It's just too small to resolve, which is then as the camera zooms in, it increases the angular. Yeah. But my point is that the act of zooming in won't make anything come back over horizon, which clarifies that there is actually a point where there is an obstruction.
It depends where your perception of the horizon is. Like I say, if you're from using your natural perspective at the elevation that you're at and at the distance that you're at there, then as we both agreed, you can't see it. So you would probably assert that at that point, the ship had already gone over the horizon. So zooming in does do something contrary to your assertion.
Well,
And
no, what zooming in does is increase the angular resolution. I can absolutely 100% agree with that, because that's what it does.
so
It increases
Okay.
the ability to see something that is there. But that doesn't mean that thing has disappeared. And that's the difference between being too small to see and going over the horizon. And that's the distinction I'm trying to make here. You know, the boat on the right, the big one, even at this point, you can't really see it, okay? But that doesn't mean
well, you
it's
can
not
see
there.
the shape of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, this is a good camera, but if you were just standing there with your eyes, you probably wouldn't be able to make that out unless you squinted really hard. But that doesn't mean it's disappeared. Whereas the part of the boat with part of it missing, has actually disappeared, and no amount of resolving the image will ever bring that back. So that's what I'm trying to talk about, is that there's a distinction between increasing the angular resolution and actually having something go beyond the visible point of view.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I believe that. Well, yeah, no, I agree that zooming in does obviously increase the angular resolution. However, again, I'd like to make a separation in stating that the horizon, depending on your elevation, automatically creates a optimum viewing angle. If that would be the correct terminology. It makes sense in my head.
I can agree with that. In the sense that
So
if
what
I
I'm
was
saying is, if you was to get lower, more of the ship in the foreground would also disappear. Therefore,
Possibly, yeah.
if you was, I don't know, 2 foot tall taking this image, then you would say, oh look, the ship's gone over the horizon at exactly the same distance that you're already at, when it hasn't. It's just behind what the horizon is creating as the optimum viewing point.
Okay, so all the things that you're saying there are observations that we would expect on the globe. You would expect that if you got lower, you would be able to see less, and if you got higher, you would be able to see more, because that's how a sphere works, and that increases the amount of the sphere you're able to see. So you've pretty much
Right.
agreed with me
Let me
there
just
that the
interject for a second.
observations match a globe, right?
Let me just interject for a second, right? So if we're viewing from this distance here, yeah, even on your model, the amount of curvature would be minimal, and certainly to our perspective would be nigh on not noticeable at all, right? Over this distance, the
Yeah.
curvature from general angular perspective is pretty much non-existent. So what we're looking at essentially is a flat plane. Whether it disappears over the curvature past that is another matter, but up to that point we're viewing a relatively flat plane. Now, for it to change from you seeing a whole load of the boat, as we do the foreground boat I'm talking about, which we're seeing quite a lot, to you dropping a number of, I don't know, say you're a 6 foot person dropping 4 feet to being 2 foot up, and you then only seeing the masts again, or just below that, because you would lose a lot of view.
Yeah.
For that difference to occur, that isn't curvature.
No,
That's you dropping, and so
actually it makes perfect sense and matches the math of the model that we have. There's an equation that you can use to actually work out, based on your eye line, how far away the horizon should be. And when you do the calculations, the difference between the horizons, say between someone that is 5'8" and 6'1", all right, that will actually give you an extra 0.25 of a mile that you can see of the horizon. That you can see further before there's an obstruction point, or whatever you want to call it. So the actual elevation, based on the math of our model, even the tiniest bit of elevation can make actually quite a large difference in the distance that the horizon is from you. But again, that math actually matches our globe model.
right. So I mean, I guess you'd have to bring, what equation is it you're talking about?
Bear with me,
Just in
because
case
I've
I
actually
don't know.
used it in one of my videos. Let me just get it up. I've used it in a couple of videos, actually.
While you're doing that, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so because now it should be going through. Tell me if you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Check. Can you
Yes.
still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, fucking goddamn! Why does it not go through my sound panel? We gotta.
Right. So let me go to my channel.
People are saying I'm low volume, and so I was trying to turn it up, but I don't know.
I'll turn you up a bit here.
Okay. You can
Okay.
do it.
Yep. Right. this is one of my very first videos that I did, so people may laugh when I display it. I cringe watching it, to be honest. Let me just... Right, it's this one.
I mean, it's one of those. We're going to have to go
Yeah.
through quite a long-winded process, I feel. And
Let me just get the maths for you.
Fails at the intro. He's sound checking through the whole video. That's it. Get out of here, Brady.
Okay. I want to add an input.
So
Sorry,
for me, this mathematics already is more than likely going to be just describing what we can already see from our natural perspective, and then
you just
attributing it to a presupposed spherical model. So is it?
No. It's
8 inch per mile squared.
No. It's no, because that isn't actually. We'll talk about that afterwards, because that's actually an interesting story where that came from. Let me just get this up and. Okay. Where d is the distance to the horizon in kilometers and r is the height of the observer in meters. So, for an observer of 5'7", which is 1.7 meters. Sorry, I'll just take it back to. But assuming zero refraction, the distance to the horizon from an observer close to the Earth's surface is shown by the formula d equals 3.57 times the square root of r, where d is the distance to the horizon in kilometers and r is the height of the observer in meters. So, for an observer of 5'7", which is 1.7 meters, the horizon is 4.7 kilometers away, or 2.9 miles. For an observer of 6'2", 1.9 meters, the horizon is 4.9 kilometers away, 3.05 miles. This shows that even the smallest increase in elevation dramatically increases the distance that you can see on a globe. To understand how much of the Earth's curve you're at... God, get rid of that. Yeah, sorry about that ugly bald guy.
I was just about to say we need to see more of this. that paper, the wallpaper in the background again.
Oh my God!
You look older, bro. You look older. All this flat Earth money's doing you all right still.
I look older now, really.
No, you look older then.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I've taken all the money I've made from flat Earth and had cosmetic surgery and stuff. yeah, FTFE
I'm not
classic.
Even gonna lie, I want to roundhouse that dude. I want to roundhouse that dude on the screen.
So yeah, what that shows is that a rather small increase in elevation can actually dramatically increase the distance to the horizon from the observer's point of view. And again, that maths, it's not just made up; it literally matches the globe, and you know it's kind of undisputable.
How so? I mean, how does it match the globe? I mean, you saying it matches the globe? I doubt it's been measured against what we would naturally see on a flat plane. I doubt anyone's done that. So for you to assert that it matches a flat, it matches a globe.
I don't have to know that if it matches a flat plane, but the important part in that equation is the square root of r, you know, which is taking into account your distance and the size of the Earth and everything. So
radius.
I can't remember what I said in that bit, to be honest, but it's either the distance to it or the radius. 3.57 times the square root of r, where r is the distance to the object. No, it's not the radius, but the equation. If you would extrapolate the equation out to cover like the size of the Earth and how far up you would have to be to see it all, it's what matches the actual math. It wasn't something that was reverse engineered, is the point that I'm trying to get to. It is just an observation that we can do and calculate and see that it matches what we have. But to say, does it match on a flat plane? No, of course it doesn't, because on a flat plane, I say that there wouldn't be a horizon. And I can't see any reason why there would actually be a horizon on a flat Earth. There might be some fuzzy, indistinguishable mess in the distance, but there would not be a defined, clear horizon. Now, granted, you don't have a defined, clear horizon all the time because you have atmospheric effects, but when you have a defined, clear horizon anytime, then that's just completely impossible on a flat Earth. It doesn't make sense on a flat Earth why there would be such a straight line as a horizon. It would just keep going.
Well, a straight line of a horizon, unless you're obviously at a really high elevation, only occurs over a large body of water like the ocean. You know, if you're looking from the beach at hills, then the horizon isn't a dead straight line.
Agreed. We
So,
can. I agree with you.
that's
But land has contours, so it's very hard for us to kind of use that as a guide as to where a curve is. But sea doesn't, so that it doesn't explain why there is a horizon at sea. As far as
well, the flat Earth having a horizon to me is extremely logical.
How so?
Again, if you're on a flat plane, like the last debate I had with Conspicuous, we was talking about stars and that. I think you come in and agreed that on a flat plane you wouldn't be able to see the entirety of the Earth's stars. For example, you can't see forever.
No,
If we're in England and you're at the shoreline, you can't see to Australia. Now, that's not just due to atmospheric effects. That's down to purely on the way that your eyes work, making a vanishing point, and where that point is where the sky meets the oceans when you're looking out. To a certain degree, of course. Again, if you increase your angular resolution and zoom inwards,
I mean,
and you're at an elevation
I had
where the horizon then changes.
I had an appointment
Which again,
with
you've agreed that.
Well, I don't think I have agreed, and I had an appointment with my optician a couple of days ago, and I'm pretty sure that he would agree that's not how eyes work as well. Your eyes don't have a limit as to what you can see. Your eyes literally just receive light. That's all they do. They don't have a limit to what they can actually see. There is a angular resolution that the eyes have, which is like a one, it's really, really tiny arc second. But your brain's ability to resolve it, actually, it isn't.
Yeah.
That's
your brain does. Your eyes are limitless, but your brain is limited. That's fine if you want to.
No. I'm not saying that either. You're putting words in my mouth there. Your brain isn't limited at all because your brain just resolves what your eyes see, and all your eyes see is the light that you receive. So there is what your eyes do has really nothing to do with why the horizon is there. That makes absolutely no sense. Eyes just receive light. So they're just a sensor.
So there's no limitation on what you can see, how far you can see. Your eyes can.
No, because you can see stars that are light years away, that we know are light years away based on their redshift and everything, and what they're emitting. We can see the sun in the sky, and even according to most flat Earth models, that is 3,000 miles, right? So my question for that is, if we can see the sun, which is 3,000 miles up, why can't I see New York from Ireland, which is 3,000 miles away?
Okay, so you're making all these splits, but you're assuming that viewing something either across a flat plane when you're, 6 foot tall, looking straight ahead, or you're on a sphere, 6 foot tall, looking straight ahead, would be the same as, especially with the now minimal amount of curvature you guys are coming with, especially from your natural perspective. Either model, you're trying to assert that that's the same as just looking up into the sky. We would have the same visual effects.
No, I'm just trying to make the comparison that if we can see 3,000 miles one way, then why can't we see 3,000 miles another way? And that is
not the same.
No, they're not the same. But that shows that our eyes can see at least 3,000 miles. All right, that means that our eyes don't have a limitation.
Why do you think they're not the same? If they're not the same,
I didn't say that. I'm just talking about the physical difference here, and that's what you're trying. That's what I'm trying to get across to you.
Are they different?
There
is viewing something looking straight across a flat or spherical model the same as looking up to the sky?
That depends on what you guys say about the atmosphere and where the sun is and stuff. I'm really not sure how it works.
Doesn't matter. We both view the same objects. It doesn't matter how far away we say they are. We both view the same object. So on either model, if we're looking across a straight at the horizon.
Are you trying to get at that there would be atmospheric
different-
effects? Is that what you're trying to say?
There's
That
a lot of different effects that make them different. But
okay,
you,
right.
I'm
Well,
trying
that
to-
is
I wasn't
actually
trying to say they're the same or not.
no,
You're
but
comparing.
that's different to what I was trying to get at, which is that our eyes don't have a limit as to how far they can see, and the fact that we can see the sun, which is even at a minimum, according to your model, 3,000 miles away, shows that our eyes don't have a limit as to how far they can see. Now, when you're talking about refraction and everything, that's different because you're talking about how light interacts with the atmosphere and can appear to rise or lower the horizon. But that's nothing to do with your eye's ability to see things. That's just to do with what the atmosphere is doing to the light.
Well, there's many things to do with why your eyes can't see certain things. Like we both just agreed, right, that your elevation and height when viewing things vastly increases or decreases your optimum viewing.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense on a flat plane.
Of course it does.
No, because if it's flat, then you
can
can still see it. If it's flat, then raising your altitude wouldn't allow you to see any further. It might increase the angle that you can resolve certain things at, but if you had the ability to zoom in infinitely with a camera on a flat plane, you could resolve anything in the distance because there would be no curve. But we don't see that, and that means that there is something there that isn't flat.
Well, yeah, there's many natural things that come into consideration, like waves, light conditions. But again, the horizon itself, the flat object that you see, vastly changes when you increase elevation. Now, that is something you would most definitely expect on a flat plane, because when you're viewing this, as you've again agreed, there is no visible curvature looking out.
No, that's my point, is that on a flat plane, increasing your elevation shouldn't change how far you can see. That only makes sense on a sphere. And the fact that the horizon drops with altitude at the rate we expect, again, confirms that we're on a sphere. The horizon, if we were flat, would stay at eye level as you rise with altitude, and we know that that's not the case.
Yeah, well, I totally disagree. On a flat plane, your elevation vastly increases your optimum viewing point, which is created by the horizon. I mean, you don't even understand that there should be a horizon on a flat plane.
No. It's not that I don't understand. It doesn't make sense that there is a horizon on the flat Earth. It literally makes no sense that there is such a defined, clear line that is in proportion to the math of the model that we have on our globe. And I want to get back to this with 8 inches per mile squared. All right, where's that from?
It's from landscaping type motherfuckers.
Okay, do you want to know when it was first used in popular usage? It was by Samuel Rowbotham, who's a flat earther. And he started using it to try and disprove the curve of the Earth because he was reading the Encyclopedia Britannica and misread a heading and thought that that was the correct calculation for Earth, when it literally just used for leveling calculations for, surveyors and stuff. It's not really anything to do with the curve of the Earth. So that 8 inches per mile squared actually came from a flat earther. So I would love it if flat earthers stopped saying that that's the formula for the globe Earth, because no globe earther thinks that that is the formula for the globe Earth. Because if you use that and you carry if you carried that right, say if you carried that equation on, right, at the diameter of the Earth, it would actually curve away from the planet at 3 times the diameter of the Earth. It's a parabola, which means that as it increases in distance, it gets less circular. You cannot, within maths, you can't have something come back on itself with a single function. You need at least 2 functions for that to happen, and there's only 1 function in that equation. So it literally cannot describe a circle or a sphere. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but it's got nothing to do with me personally, but I've definitely heard thousands of globe defenders use 8" per mile squared, and I'd be surprised if I can go back through your back catalogue and find you referencing it.
Oh no, I wouldn't use it as proof of the globe Earth. I mean, it's kind of accurate up to like 100 miles, but after that, it's pretty much useless. And this
So you probably have used it.
No, I honestly don't think that I would have used it as proof for the Earth, because I know that that isn't
not as
the
proof,
formula
not
for
as proof, just as a reference.
No, I don't think I have used it as a reference, unless I've said within 100 miles, which it's kind of accurate for. People are actually asking for the equation. I've got it on my thing. I'll actually put it in the description of the video later on. But anyway, back to the discussion at hand. Everything that you've described with the observations that you would expect are actually what we expect on the globe, and this is what confuses me.
This is the only other thing that I can really think of. Right, so I'm taking it out of a kind of natural setting. If you're in a corridor that you know is straight, it's got the same dimensions all the way down, and you're looking down, what are those optical effects, and why would those not create what you would perceive as a horizon in a more natural setting?
Because parallel lines, by definition, do not intersect. So that means that, yes, when you look at a hallway, the ceiling does appear to come down and the floor does appear to rise up. But there is no point that they would ever intersect on a continual flat plane, because they're parallel lines. So that means that there wouldn't be a horizon on a flat Earth. Crickets.
I mean, I think taking it from an unnatural setting to a natural setting for me in this particular instance.
Thank you, Michael Davis, for posting that equation, by the way. That's my response to the corridor thing, is that, yeah, it does appear to rise and go down, but there is no point where it would intersect, which means that there wouldn't be a horizon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only way that I could really bring that into a really accurate analogy would be like a room that spanned your entire peripheral vision and then continued up to a point where you could no longer see. And I can't really imagine that myself. So yeah, I don't think that was a very good analogy, to be honest.
I know what you're trying to get at. If something was massive enough, then maybe it would appear.
Because the enclosure is so close to your peripheral vision, and you've got those parallel lines so close, and you're following it down, it follows to a point. Whereas in something where it spans your entire peripheral vision to as far as you could see when you were standing looking straight ahead, that would be a much more accurate analogy. But yeah, I can't really even imagine a room that big. So
okay, so can we at least agree that parallel lines will never intersect? Right. So that is my explanation as to why there wouldn't be a horizon on a flat plane. Now, I think I've defended the globe calculations enough at the moment, and can I ask you for some evidence that the Earth is flat? Some positive evidence.
Some positive evidence. Well, it depends. What you would accept as positive evidence. Last time I had to
positive evidence is not. It's not the globe because this is evidence of the flat Earth. So some actual evidence that the Earth is flat, some physics to back it up, some equations that I can verify, some observations that are undeniable that show that the Earth is flat, and an experiment that shows that the Earth is flat. Anything.
Well, I think when it comes to positively proving something that is so presents itself so obviously to us that equation, like, this isn't something that's ever been in curriculum in Western civilization.
That's not true. There was an entire village. There's like an entire city in America kind of founded around Daniel Robotham, that was literally all flat earthers, and they did
What?
teach
Right,
flat
so
earth.
I've
one
never heard of that.
secluded
Yeah,
civilization.
look up Zion.
No
I'm
one's
Google
ever heard of.
I
machining.
think it was called
This is what
Zion.
I'm talking about. Though. One secluded civilization that no
Matrix,
one's ever
my
heard of. So
God.
I know.
I'm not even
But-
going to count that. That was
But
pointless even
okay,
bringing up.
but if we look at why it's not in the curriculum, it's because there's nothing that shows that it's true. There is no evidence that the Earth is flat. There is nothing that we could teach children for them to go out and show that the Earth is flat. And when you say that it presents itself as flat, again, I have to disagree, because the fact that there's a horizon when I look out at sea, for me, that shows that it's not flat. That is my evidence that the Earth is not flat. And I was in the Royal Navy. I spent a lot of time at sea. And trust me, when you're in the middle of the ocean with nothing around, it's pretty clear that you're not on a flat plane. And also the GPS
Yeah, I mean,
signals
like you
that you're
say, the
receiving.
parallel lines don't intersect. And so when you're out at sea, you're not viewing things in parallel lines. You know, if the Earth is circular, or at least your view is circular in a 360-degree view from wherever you're standing, and that's your maximum optics caused by your elevation and where the horizon is, then we're not viewing things in parallel lines. And so it presents itself as obvious and logical to me that there is a horizon there, and up to and after it is a flat plane. When it comes to positive evidence, like I say, this isn't something that's exactly being developed in academia or within those kind of circles. And so,
But there's been hundreds of people. There's been hundreds of people doing this for years. Surely there's something. Just one experiment that can demonstrably show some evidence that the Earth is flat. One equation, or that I can verify that a flat earther has figured out. One,
hundreds of people doing what for years? Do you mean like the past 5-6 years with this new kind of wave, or do you mean like over hundreds?
The modern flat Earth movement was created by Samuel Robotham like a few hundred years ago. So I mean, the whole idea of flat Earth has had thousands of years to gather evidence. But the thing is, whenever someone tries to gather evidence of something, it turns up that it's not flat. Which is why every observation throughout history matches what we have now. When you look at what Eratosthenes got for the circumference of the planet, it's so close to what we actually know now, that can't just be a coincidence. And I'm not just saying that one experiment. All the experiments that show that there's curvature to the Earth, that gravity is a thing, that whenever they're repeated, they come up with the same result. And that can't just be a coincidence. And we know if gravity's real, then the Earth cannot be flat. That's a 100% fact.
I'm certainly not thinking it's a coincidence. All of these things are brought about with a purpose. Yeah, gravity. I mean, although again, it's not exactly positive proof. I have to say it's more negative proof. Your model is entirely held together by gravity. And
gravity is the glue that holds everything together, 100%. And that's because gravity is one of the fundamental forces of the universe. Without gravity, the universe wouldn't exist as it is. The same as without electromagnetism, the universe wouldn't exist as it is. We wouldn't be able to perceive the physical universe without the interactions there is.
When you're speaking to people that are within my mentality, you need to remember that the universe doesn't exist in the way that you think it exists for us anyway.
Okay, right. So have you? All right, I need to get back to trying to get some positive evidence out of you. So have you got any evidence that the universe isn't the way that we've described it? Anything at all? Just one scientific paper I can refer to? A YouTube video that can...
From where would you expect a scientific paper from?
Well, that's the thing. There's so much going on. If that's why we have peer reviews. If someone
you're the most thing that's going on in this fight in the flat Earth. You've got the most subscribers out here, bruv. You're the most thing that's going on out here, isn't
well, actually, Jeranism's got like 150,000 subscribers, but I'm still gonna get more views than
Red
them.
pill.
Yeah, well, his channel got demonetized. Lol.
Again, though, I've been in this a long time. And
I'm
I
behind.
don't really watch these guys like that. So for me,
But
it's not a thing.
but surely in your research to make you come to the conclusion that the Earth is flat, there has to have been one thing that was a positive evidence for the flat Earth that made you go, yeah, that literally can't make sense on a globe. It doesn't make sense to me that somebody can go against the entirety of known science without having one bit of positive evidence to actually back up what they say. Not understanding refraction and horizons and everything.
Okay,
and
so
I mean, like, these things you can argue about whether it is what it is or you want, but that's not positive
to
proof.
understanding someone with that mentality, right? Would you think it would be logical if someone in their mind, I'm not saying you, but if someone in their mind can disprove all of these positive proofs that you claim, that they would not assert that it was false?
Well, no, none of the claims that we
would be
make
a
can be.
logical conclusion.
But again, none of the claims that is the scientific consensus have ever been proved false. Ever. That's the thing. And that's why I've got tons of positive evidence. In the past week, I've actually done a whole bunch of debates, and I have shown so much evidence that the Earth is a sphere and it rotates, that I'm at the point where it's not my job to prove anything anymore. I'm waiting for one flat earther to just give me one single bit of positive evidence that the Earth is in fact flat. Because I've looked, honestly, and I can't find any. And I've studied physics most of my life. I've looked and thought about how the universe works, and I've dug through countless threads and looked at everyone that says they've got any evidence, and there's never any positive evidence. There is only ever, oh, well, that doesn't make sense, so it must be flat, which is actually called an argument from incredulity. And I just would want, for once, honestly, you would be the best flat earther that I've ever met if you can just give me one single bit of positive evidence. Come on.
Like I say, when it comes down to logic, if in someone's mind all of your positive proof can be falsified, then
but it can.
It's only logical to
there isn't one bit of evidence that I have that can be falsified.
That provides content for your channel, it can. Like you say, gravity is the glue that holds it all together. Now, when you say that you've gone through tons of research, you've been studying, you've only come into it from one state of mind.
No, wrong. That's not how I look at things. When I go and look at something, right, I will look for explanations for why things fall. Alternative explanations to gravity. And I found a really interesting paper that was all to do with the electric universe, and I went into it with the mindset of, let's see if this can explain anything that I understand.
Electric universe in what sense? Is in like
it was talking about how electromagnetic forces are what create the whole universe as we understand it, including gravity and physical properties and everything. And it was a very interesting paper, and had
theories or something.
I can't really remember, but it had a lot of good maths in it that actually made sense within the context of the paper and everything, but it didn't match any of reality. And that's the closest I've ever come to actually having some positive proof, is a paper with some math that makes sense, but actually misunderstands a concept. And that's still not positive proof. So, again, I just have to ask, have you got anything that I could go and look up that could help convince me that the Earth is flat? I'm just saying, I've looked. So, this is what I do. I've spent so much time.
The best things that I could give you to, for me, prove or give evidence towards the Earth was flat for me personally, for you, wouldn't even necessarily be directly related to the shape of the Earth and scientific things like this. It would be
whatever it is,
sociological philosophy and things, where, I mean, to be able to, for you to be able to get it into your head that this level of deception would be possible, and all of these intellectual people, the most intellectual people in the world, like, how the fuck can normal people like me, come and assert that, like you say, hundreds or thousands of years of research from the most intellectual, or at least said to be most intellectual minds, all of these experiments and equations and things that you've got that all coincide with what you already see and perceive to be your version of reality. How can we come and assert that, no, that's wrong, you've all been deceived, you've all been deceived? It seems absurd. But in order to get to that stage,
I mean, the best way would be to just give me some evidence. Sorry, I just wanted to say that the best way would be to give me some evidence.
It's not just maths and science in the terms of, in the sense of natural science and what we observe and things like this. It's the structure of our entire reality, how we live our everyday lives and things. And so I'd be taking it way off topic if I do that. But I'd probably like to go to gravity and probably go back to what I was describing.
If you can prove to me that gravity isn't real, that would go some way to proving that the Earth is flat. But again, that's not really positive evidence. You would have to give me an alternative explanation that actually makes sense and can't be picked apart. So, do you have an alternative explanation for gravity as we understand it?
Yes.
Okay, go on then.
But I would that's what I want, because really this far along in the entire journey, and my personal journey, was the only journey I can really speak from, really, I don't feel like you can really expect too much more. I don't have a doctorate in physics or any kind of crazy stuff like that, so I'm not able to provide you with. So I mean, even if I did, we'd have to go away and test and come back and do some craziness. So yeah, last time we came to the conclusion that everything comes from ground being the natural resting place of all things. We went through that, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Kind of what my basis for.
Can you just explain it so that we're both on the same page as to what you're trying to say the alternative explanation for gravity is?
Right. So when we're talking of gravity, there's almost two sides to it. There's our observation of things falling, and then this mass attracting mass curvature of space-time. And so I see them as almost two separate things. There's what we observe clearly in reality that we try to explain from the off, and then the deeper explanation, whether you take that on a micro type scale or we go on a planetary level. The essential is the foundation of us describing things falling. And so for me, things falling or dropping is because they've had a force exerted upon them in order to be out of equilibrium, somehow suspended, in order for them to take a natural process of coming back to that resting position of ground. I think last time we said, is there anything that doesn't have to exert a force in order to leave ground? And I think we come down to the question of does there need to be a force for it to...
Right. Well, here's my main problem with that. Right. So what you're saying is the acceleration from that this would have if I dropped it is because I've put energy into it by lifting it up, right?
No, not exactly. So that's kind of describing like potential energy, and
that is
creates another split in the explanation. So.
But so
yes, and no.
So if I let this go now,
I mean,
why would it start? And remember, the important thing here isn't that it falls, is that it accelerates. So why, as soon as I let it go, does it start and continue to accelerate?
Well, the manner in which it returns back to its natural resting position is secondary. The first thing is just that it does. No. And there's the up and down debate.
There's the important point. Is that the way that it gets to the ground is very important, because acceleration does require a force. And
Oh, for
not
sure.
not
It's
not
important
not
the way
only
that it
not
gets
not
to the
only
ground,
does it
but it's
require
secondary
a
to the fact that
force,
it does.
not really. It's actually the most important part, because
Other than the fact that
when you
it
look
does.
at that acceleration and you understand that acceleration actually needs a constant force acting on it to happen, that means that there is something forcing it towards the ground. It's not just falling, it's constantly accelerating. So there still isn't an alternative explanation for gravity, because you're not giving me a reason why it actually goes towards the ground. And that's what gravity is. That gravity is the
Oh,
explanation.
the reason why it goes back to the ground is because that's its natural resting position. That's where it's come from in the first place. No matter what
How
object
does it
it is
know?
we're talking about,
How does it know that? Is it sentient?
it doesn't have it doesn't have intelligence. There's no intelligence
Well,
base.
then
It's a
how did?
natural,
Well,
natural
then what is
law. It's a
telling
natural
it?
process.
Okay, so what is telling it to go back to the ground?
There's all sorts of information, but that process doesn't. I mean, there's interaction between
Can
the
I
mass of the
can I ask
object,
a question?
the medium that it's in, and its initial state. There's an interaction between those three motions and how you move the object between them. You know, for instance, if you change the medium and you put it in water as opposed to the natural atmosphere of air, that makes a massive difference. If it was already off of the ground in some shape or form, that makes a massive difference. There's a lot of different variables, but it's the interaction between those three scenarios.
Okay, right. Team's got a question, I
Yeah,
think.
what was the question?
Hey, Faroh, first off, would you mind if I asked you a question? I don't want to interject into y'all's conversation. It's going so well without me saying anything.
You don't want to go for it.
Okay, you said that the natural position, or it goes back to its natural resting position. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Like if let's say an object was made on the surface, it tends to want to return back to the surface, I guess is what I'm trying to say, just to clarify your position.
Like I say, there's no intelligence in this. So ground.
No,
where
no,
it came
no,
from
I'm not
is
saying that
its
it's sentient. I'm
final-
not saying it's
No, but
sentient.
what,
I'm saying that it
I'm
just
not too
has a
sure
natural
what your question is. So
desire.
if what you're saying is, yeah, is if you dug like a hole,
Well, I'm trying to
why would it
steel
not
man your
stay at the same
position.
place they come back from?
No.
Well, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if you dropped it down a well, why would it not get to the same level that it was created at and stop there? Why would it continue to fall?
Again, there's no intelligence based within it. It's just a natural process that we're
I'm
witnessing.
not
And
saying
so
there's an
ground.
intelligence.
Yeah.
No. But
Right.
in order for that to happen, it would have to know where it came from. Now, ground is the baseline foundation wherever that stops. Whether you dig a massive hole or you raise it up on a table or a platform, ground is the foundation base that's going to stop it. There's no intelligence in it, so it's not going to decide in midair. Oh, this is where I was made. Let's stop here. Just get off of the bus, ding the bell or something. There's no intelligence in it.
Okay, so my question is then, why is that natural desire implemented? What mechanism?
The ground, really.
Well, not really, because
I mean-
we can take something from the ground, regardless of what it is. This is made from pure aluminium, which has come from ore that came from the ground, right? So it's come from the ground. We're not disputing that. But why does it go back down? Why, when I let it, does it accelerate towards the ground? And here's actually a better question for you, right? Why, if I let this go at different points on the Earth, would it have a different acceleration towards the ground?
Well, to the first question, like things can you're gonna have to ask your questions again.
Right. So, number one, why is that desire to go back to the ground implemented? What is the mechanism behind that actually happening? Like, is there some invisible force pulling it in? Is it some kind of special magnetism? Why is that natural desire, why does it
There's no
happen?
natural desire. Like I say, there's no intelligence. So it
No.
doesn't have like a burning desire to get back to the earth. It's just a process that we witness due to, I mean, it's due
Okay.
to the fact it was created in the first place. It's the
Right.
same question as why was it created in the first place? Just
Right.
due to a process. That's
Okay,
it.
so due to a process, but then we need to look at the mechanism behind that process. And that leads on to my second question, right? If I was at the North Pole and I dropped this towards the ground, it would accelerate at a different rate as if I dropped it when I was at the equator. Okay, not very much, about
So
0.3%.
how it happens. We can assert how it happens. Again, like mine is due to a process.
Yeah,
yours is
but-
that there's a force applied to create acceleration.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to get at, right?
Why
Is that?
That's a philosophical matter.
Well, no, it's not philosophical matter, because why is that, want or need or natural process to get back to the ground? Why is it quicker on some parts of the planet than others? And
That's a different question.
no, it's the same question. It's about this natural process that you're talking about. Yes, I can absolutely agree with you. There's a natural process that if I let go of something, it goes towards the ground. But then that's not an explanation. That's just it goes towards the ground. Then we need to look at what's going on, and what we observe is that there's an acceleration. Okay, that's what's happening. It's not just going towards the ground, it is accelerating towards the ground. Then we can make observations that, based on where we are on Earth, that acceleration towards the ground is slightly different. So then we need to think, well, why is that acceleration towards the ground different at different points on the Earth? What is making that difference? Why is that natural process of going towards the ground happening in different ways based on where you are?
Right. So, I mean, first, that's kind of based on the differentiation of the gravitational accelerational
Absolutely.
calculation.
Well done.
Yeah.
You're now a globe earther.
No, that's your interpretation of viewing that process and saying, why does this process we call gravity, which is a force which pulls things to the center of the mass, why is that variant? Whereas we're just viewing a process. I mean, I don't have any particular need at this moment to describe that. I'm quite happy with trying to explain gravity on my.
But that is explaining gravity. That is a very important part. Right.
Yeah, but you're asking why there's a difference in your calculations based on
not just in my calculations.
This illusional force. No, obviously not. It's in the observed rate, but that's the observed rate of an already formulated idea of a force that's an illusion in my mind. And so what we're really doing is asking, why are we witnessing this natural process of things coming back to its natural resting position occurring at different speeds at different places on the Earth? And we don't even know exactly what the entire Earth shape is entirely. So for me to try and break down
but that means
that's one step further.
My point is that means there's something.
That's your equations on a force that's an illusion in my mind.
And we can explain that. That's the thing. We can explain why that gravitational acceleration is different, right? And I'm not sure if you've seen this particular.
You created his gravitational constant in the 1700s, so you got a way bigger head start on this.
Well, he didn't create the gravitational constant. He figured that out based on observations. Yeah. It wasn't something he came up with, and then it was literal observations that he did. Where is? 1 second, I'm just trying to get. There we go. Right. So let's have a look at this.
First, we weigh a small lead pyramid to measure the force of attraction between it and the Earth. Its weight is 152.166 grams. Now we move the heavy lead ball under the scale, adding its mass to the mass of the Earth. The weight has increased by 1/1000th of a gram, which represents the attraction between the pyramid and the ball. When the mass under the pyramid got bigger, the force of attraction did too.
Okay, so that backs up my point of the gravitational acceleration can be different. And the only thing that changed there was that they added some more mass underneath the pyramid. And that increased the weight. Okay? And that backs up everything that I've been saying about gravity, that there is a gravitational acceleration. Now, with you just saying, well, there's a natural process, but that doesn't... Wait. Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point first.
I'm going to say.
Farah, let me finish my point first.
Let him finish. Farah, let him finish, and then he'll give you.
Stopped already.
Yeah. So the fact that we can actually explain the difference in the gravitational acceleration, why it happens, and actually back this up with experiments that can show that this is how gravity works, backs up my side. And your explanation is it's just a natural process with no explanation of the actual mechanism. Whereas you can't argue that the explanation I've given is logical and makes sense.
Makes sense on a sphere. Now, my assertion is that ground is the base of all things and it will always try and return to the ground. So you have brought into play this scale directly underneath the mass that you're claiming has an attractional force to the center of the Earth's gravity or whatever.
Yeah.
My claim is that it's the ground. So now you have falsely raised the level of ground, which has given you a different reading on your scale. You've presupposed that that's gravity causing it due to there being a greater attraction of mass somehow.
It demonstrated that's literally what it demonstrated. There isn't, unless you can give me another explanation as to why the scale increased when the lead weight was put underneath. Is there any reason that you can explain to me why that would happen without invoking gravity?
Again, if it's coming from ground and it's returning back to its and you're falsely elevating it away from its natural resting position, and you've also falsely increase the level of ground, the base, then the interaction between these two objects is clearly displayed.
What interaction?
Some sort of...
Yes.
Where you falsely increasing the level of ground.
Right, and no, you're absolutely right with what you're saying. With the change that we've made, it has increased an attraction. Right? So you are agreeing that there is some external force at work here, right? Because according so that because that attraction increased when we brought the lead weight up to it. So you are agreeing.
It was a lead ball. And it was a lead ball suspended, yeah, and scaled underneath. Yeah.
It's the lead weight. It was right. Let me get it back for you.
Yeah. On my phone, so I don't.
First, we weigh a small lead pyramid to measure the force of attraction between it and the Earth.
So you've got this lead pyramid hanging down from the scales, right? So it's hanging underneath it, right? And then what they do is that's how much it weighs, the lead pyramid hanging down. It weighs 152.166 grams, right? And the only thing that they do is change what is underneath it, which is a lead ball. And then simply by doing that, the weight has increased by 1/1000th of a gram, or at least that's what the scales can register. It might be less, we don't know what decimal point is after that, but it's gone up from 6.6 to 6.7, showing that adding a mass underneath something increases its weight. And weight is a force. Weight is your mass times your gravitational acceleration. And that matches up with our explanations. So can you tell me, without using gravity, why that number went up?
Yeah, again, I'd have to assert from this early on in the presentation that, yeah, you just increased the level of ground. It's nothing to do with the mass of the lead ball there. It's the increasing of the level of ground.
So the closer something is to the ground, the more of an attraction there is. That's what you're saying?
Not necessarily, but, I mean, without trying to interpret it as intelligence, but the closer that it is, the closer it is to being to where it needs to be. And so,
right. And so,
force,
yeah, that's the thing. You're saying that there's some kind of force because it needs to be back there, and the closer it is to the ground, then the more that need or that force that to go back to the ground is, and that's called gravity. And the increase of the height actually is important. Yeah, the increase of the decrease in the distance is actually important because part of the gravitational acceleration constant equation is the distance between the centers of the things. So if you're adding some extra height, then that is going to very tinily change, very tiny, that's not a word, I'm sorry, on very tiny amount change it. But the important part is the mass, because the actual distance to the center was hardly changed when you take into account the distance to the center is the Earth.
I think the state that the object's in is quite important. It's in constant suspension. It's in a state of false suspension, and so at that moment, it's constantly reaching to see. If there is any molecular interaction at all, then it's going to still be constantly seeking to reach ground in this state. Whereas if it was resting on something solid below it, its state changes.
Right. Okay.
You
So
see, if there is any sort of molecular interaction, and so in either of our explanations, I feel like this doesn't discount my explanation.
But you haven't really given me an you haven't really given me an explanation apart from kind of backing up the gravitational acceleration equation. And you are right that the distance to the centers has been slightly changed, but the important thing is that there is a change to the mass, and that
without from you, but for me, it's just to where its natural resting state is going to be. It's
So but there still has to be a force present. That is what I'm getting at. If you're saying it just wants to go back to its natural resting place, there still has to be some external something making it go back.
Right. So no, it's something. It's not something making it go back. It's something stopping it going back. It would be making its way back regardless.
But why would it be making its way? All right, okay. I think I need to ask an important question at this point. Do you understand Newton's laws of motion?
Reasonably well.
So you understand that an object at rest will stay at rest, and an object in motion will stay at motion unless there's an external force acted on them, right? That's a fundamental kind of physics thing. So, something isn't going to move unless there's a force applied to it. And if something's moving, it's not going to stop unless there's a force applied to it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means that there has to be something making that need to go back to the ground there. There has to be an external something happening. And there's an external force called gravity. I really want to play the Desert File clip, but I'm going to restrain.
Right, so we're having this on this point specifically, and I'm glad that you just reverted to this. There's a split in our interpretations of what's occurring there. You're asserting that there has to be a force bringing it back to the Earth. Now, the only force that I'm observing is this bar keeping it out of equilibrium, whereas it would be at rest otherwise. So the force is keeping it out of equilibrium.
Right, let me explain why that's wrong. The main reason that's wrong is when something's accelerating, it needs a constant force. So if you're saying the force is kind of the thing that's holding it up, and when that's taken away, then that force kind of goes through the thing, that wouldn't explain an acceleration. That might explain an initial burst of movement, but then there wouldn't be a constant acceleration. And that's the force that I'm talking about. There has to be a force causing that constant acceleration. I'm not arguing with you that things want to go back towards the ground. That's why my fat ass is really hard to move around. But there's a reason for that. And that's because there's an external force pulling every molecule of my body towards the ground. And I think you kind of agreed with me that there is a force, and you're just saying that this force is the natural want for things to want to return.
No, that's not the force. That's just a process that we observe. The force is whatever's keeping it out of that natural resting state. So in that example you gave with the pyramid weight and the lead ball, the force acting upon the triangle weight, or the pyramid weight, in my observation, is that the bar that's suspending it, falsely suspending it from its state of rest.
Brilliant.
That's the force.
I've got this. Right. So there's a downward force. All right. You're agreeing with that. All right. There is a downward force that is making something want to return to the ground. Whether it's whatever it's from, both of our explanations require a force of some kind.
There are properties that objects.
Right. Now, what if I said to you that
act in certain ways and they interact with certain parts of?
Well, what if I said to you that I can show that want to go towards the ground can actually be disturbed, and can be shown on a horizontal plane rather than just vertically? Would that help disprove the way that you're thinking? If I could show you evidence that gravity is mass attracting mass by it being a sideways force, would that help?
Well, no, not if you're talking about Cavendish or anything.
No. Have you heard of the Sicilian? It's a mountain in Scotland. Where did I put it? Where did I put that video? There we go. Right, if you just give me 1 sec. I just want to play a brief video. Okay. All right, it's just like a minute long or something, so bear with me 1 sec. All right, guys. Oh, I need to turn the volume on for that. Way in the world, where is it?
Known as contour lines. It's the first time they were used. From this, they could work out surveyed.
Let's go back.
Neville Maskelyne in
Right,
1774.
just watch this for a minute or so.
The first thing he had to do was work out the mass of the mountain.
You can't see much of Schehallien today, but this plaque explains how those original calculations were done. This bit deals with weighing the mountain. It was first surveyed by Reuben Burrough, and then the mathematician Charles Hutton theoretically chopped the mountain into what's become known as contour lines. It's the first time they were used. From this, they could work out the weight of Schehallien. But it was a big step to go from that to working out the weight of the world. Nevertheless, Maskelyne had a go. This is what he did. He dangled a long plumb line on a platform 2/3 of the way up the mountain. He knew 2 gravitational forces would act upon it. The main gravity would obviously be coming from the mass of the Earth, pulling it down. But the mass of the mountain itself would pull the plumb line towards it, slightly off vertical. We've exaggerated it here. That gravitational effect is what he measured. From the angle the plumb line was deflected, Maskelyne could calculate the mass of the Earth relative to the mountain. He knew what the mountain weighed, so he could work out the weight of the Earth.
Okay.
But after all that, did Maskelyne...
Wrong bit, wrong screen. Do it. Right, so that works along the same kind of principles as the Cavendish in knowing known quantities of things and measuring the gravitational attraction between them. You could then extrapolate the weight of the Earth. But the main point of that is it shows that there is more than just this downward observation happening. If something is there, then it will change that. And this is also evidenced in the Tamarack mines, which had plumb bobs going all the way down and actually showed a deflection at the bottom of about 8 inches. Thank you, Flat Earth Jesus, for bringing that to me, because it's actually excellent evidence that the Earth is a sphere. And again, that was because of the gravitational attraction of the outside of the mines being greater than the inside of the mines because there was more mass. And it shows that this want to go back to the ground, however you want to describe it, is actually not just a want to go towards the ground. It's a want to go towards a mass. No matter what the mass is, that mass will pull something else towards it.
Right. So again, with these specific observations or experiments, whatever you want to call them, massive presupposition that gravity is something that exists. So it doesn't prove the gravity is there. It just presupposes it and then gives us measurements from that idea. The interaction that we see between the mass of this object, the mass of the mountain, and the Earth are three separate things. So again, just for starters, that's a massive presupposition that one, we're observing two separate forms of gravity, mass attracting mass. Now, for us to first even take that as a experiment or observation or something, we've got to surely just be witnessing that in nature. And I've never walked past a big object and felt like I've been sucked in by it.
That's because the gravitational force is gravitational force is dependent on mass. Like, so there's a proportional relationship between the masses and the gravitational force. The bigger the mass, the bigger the gravitational force. So you wouldn't.
So where was the presupposition that the mass of this mountain, which I'm assuming, they weren't sure of all the rock structures inside and what it would necessarily contain. I'm not too sure.
I mean,
so
they had a
presupposed that the mass of this mountain, is going to create enough of a force for it to pull the plumb line towards it, rather than the mass of this entire spherical Earth that we supposedly live on. That seems like a massive, massive leap.
Right, so they roughly knew the mass of the mountain based on its composition and its size, and using the contour lines to kind of accurately measure it. They didn't know 100%, which is why that measurement...
Did they know the compositions?
Well, the area had been mined for hundreds of years, so they were pretty certain of what it was made of. So now, what they got from that experiment, it was about 18% away from what we now understand the correct measurements of the weight of the Earth to be. But that was, again, 300 years ago, to use that, and which is not really an accurate thing because they didn't 100% know the composition, to still get, within that kind of range as to what we know now, is pretty damn good. And then in that video actually is taken from a documentary showing how they repeated the experiments more recently and got a much more accurate result because they were more aware of the composition of the hills and everything. But they repeated the Seychelles experiments and just got a more accurate result. So it shows that is an evidence that mass attracts mass. There's always going to be that downward force. That's never going away. But there was also this other force that was pulling the plumb bob towards the mountain.
Well, it's the same force, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same force. I'm suppose using the word other force is wrong. It's the gravitational. It's the
overpowering it. Right.
Not it's not overpowering it. It's not it's not overpowering it. It's adding to it. It's a net sum of forces.
Sucking it to the side. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when in that diagram that they showed, that was vastly exaggerated, vastly exaggerated. It was kind of like centimeters that it moved.
I need to be able to, envisage how they create the straight line and then create, measure the angle that's created by the mass of the mountain's gravitational attraction.
Well, that was based on, how plumb bobs work. Plumb bobs are used to make sure things are, plumb. It's literally their purpose. So that we know that there is somewhat making that plumb bob point directly towards the Earth. And what they managed to do was to change that, meaning that there was a force that could be measured because they knew the amount that it had moved. So it's just evidence, more evidence, because I'm sure you know about the Cavendish, you said that. It's just more evidence that mass attracts mass, which is evidence that is why things accelerate towards the ground.
So in this experiment, the plumb bob was consistently stationary at the same distance.
Well, they actually
the same angle, should I say?
When it was originally done, I think he did it like maybe 300 days in a row, the original experiment, and again when they recreated it, they were up there for like 72 days. So it's kind of, you'd have to do it in all different conditions and take an average of the readings and everything. You know, that's only the right way to do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Again, though, like I would genuinely look into this specific experiment, how it's conducted and stuff. But
yeah,
I still will.
I think it's a fantastic evidence of gravity. I suppose yes, because
we need to just first establish that, you know, this force is actually existent and not just an illusion or something that's been
and the evidence of the force, that's my point. The evidence of that force is the fact that this happens, is the fact that we observe the same effect in the Cavendish experiment, is the fact that there is a constant I don't have to presuppose anything about the shape of the planet. All I have to do is observe that mass attracts mass, and if I can measure that force and find out the vector of that force, which is what something like the Shishelian experiment can do, then that can help us determine
how this is accurately conducted, because, you know, we went through the Cavendish last time. I'm not looking to do that again. But whenever you see it recreated, I wouldn't stipulate that it's done in any sort of scenarios that would count as accurate scientific experiments.
Of course not. I bet if that showed that the Earth was flat.
If I look at the data, no, of course not. An experiment is an experiment. If you're trying to prove something as important as this, then no way. It wouldn't matter what side of the fence I was on at all. It's I try and be as impartial as I can, as I imagine you'd say.
Okay, but right. So let's look at this from an impartial nature then, right? Without making any presuppositions, those are all evidences. Sorry, I keep using the word evidences. That is not a real word. Someone please slap me every time I say it. There's plenty of evidence.
Partial, because again, you said that they take averages due to, you know, conditions and things, and so I have to observe this, and it's down to an interpretation of these accumulation of different.
Well, no, there's only one way to work out a mean
conditions.
You know, there isn't interpretations for data. When you have data and you work out an average, that's what it is. There is no.
It shows you what the average is. Of course, there's no interpretation of that, but what the cause of that average is totally.
It's a force. And then it's evidence. When you look at all the evidence combined of the Cavendish, of the Shishelian, of the acceleration towards the planet. Sorry, I'm trying not to make any presupposition words. The accelerations towards the Earth being different dependent on your location. These are all evidence that there is an external force at work. And you can't see it, all right? Of course you can't see it. You can't see magnetism, all right? But you can see the effects of magnetism. That doesn't mean that magnetism isn't real.
You can see
right?
magnetism.
If you put iron filings and stuff on, yes. But that is not seeing magnetism. That is seeing the effects of magnetism. In the same way that this accelerating towards the ground is the effect of gravity. And we know it's not magnetism because the acceleration is the same no matter what the material or object is, notwithstanding things like air resistance, of course. So, yeah. I think your positive evidence for flat Earth is basically really not quite understanding what gravity is, and why we would use it.
Gravity is, especially in your model. It's just the presupposition of mass attracting mass and these dodgy ass experiments that you present with.
Okay, so
you come to
the Cavendish experiment is done.
Number of days.
Right, so the Cavendish experiment is done all the time, right? The Cavendish experiment is done all over the world all the time, more and more accurate. And here's an image of it being done in the vacuum chamber. So the Cavendish experiment, and no matter where it's done and when it's done, we always get the same result. And that's not a wacky ass experiment. It's something that anyone can do themselves if they apply themselves. BM Thurbal. Please go check out his channel. Actually, quick advert for BM Thurbal. BM Thurbal is amazing. He has not only built a Cavendish experiment in his flat that is showing amazing results, but he has also managed to snag an interview with Mark Sargent, which will be premiering on his channel in about 3 days, I think. So big props to BM Thurbal for getting that interview. If any of my mods in the chat could please put BM Furbal's channel for people to go and subscribe, because I want as many people to see that Mark Sargent interview as possible. It's just incredible that he's got that, and well done, BM Furbal. But yeah, so the experiments are done all the time, and it shows the same thing. And I think it's plenty of evidence that mass attracts mass. I think I'd like to see if Brainy or Team Skeptic have got any questions for you. That's all right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
could ask a
hadn't
question.
been thinking of questions. He could start. Yeah.
No, I got one. Faroh, how do you explain an accelerometer? Do you, first off, let me ask you: are you aware of what Yeah, do you know what an accelerometer is?
Not in terms of, I mean, it depends what exactly.
Well, okay, so an accelerometer is you can get one in your phone, for instance, or you have one in your phone, but you can access it through apps. And what it'll do is it'll tell you in which direction you're feeling a downward, or you're feeling the force of being pulled in a direction. So let's say you hold your accelerometer up, you'll see a 9.8 meters per second squared going down. Okay, now when you drop your phone, when it's in free fall, the accelerometer reads 0. Even though it's accelerating, it reads 0. Can you explain that without gravity?
Well, I went through this with someone the other day, who's like a computer programmer of some description. And I'm not too familiar with the technology itself, but when you're obviously this accelerometer is from when you're talking about it, it's from like a chip, yeah, some sort of a chip, and then in the app you're accessing the
Well,
the
no,
data
no,
that
there's not. Those are, yeah, the ones in your. Well, let me correct you. There's the ones in your phone are a chip. There's several different types of accelerometers. There's some that are chips. There's some that are considered piezoelectric accelerometers. There's also spring accelerometers that have little objects that they measure the deflection. Like when it's at rest, the spring will deflect a little bit just from the weight on the end of it. The weight of the weight on the end of it will pull down just slightly. So it measures. It has the ability of measuring it many different ways. The chip. The reason why I bring up the chip is because it's in your phone and it's easily accessible. Go ahead. Faroh, are you there?
Faroh? Still connected. Faroh, are you there?
Sure you didn't accidentally mute him.
Nope.
You overloaded him. I'm just kidding.
No, he's definitely not muted.
Science the shit out of him.
Maybe my eyeballs start hurting, or my right lobe is throbbing now. Team, come on, buddy.
Says he's disconnected now. See if he joins back.
I was just about to ask
Sorry
my
for
question
sciencing
too.
him so hard.
You broke him with your science.
I've got a slight echo in the background. Is somebody using speakers?
No,
Or is that you?
you just suck.
So we'll talk later.
Oh, so
I got sound.
I am gonna have I'm gonna have Cream Skeptic. I'm gonna have Cream Skeptic for you guys today. So.
oh, I love it. So it seems we've broken Daniel Pratt.
Is that what you tell the women too?
Hey,
Cream type baby, I got cream skeptic for you.
Okay, so I haven't. Yeah, I do actually. Well, yeah. So some people have brought that up in my last video. They made they left a bunch of comments or whatever talking about, oh, his last videos have said he's leaving Flat Earth. Is that what he said?
Make
Yep.
a candle.
Yep,
Leave
he-
it make candle.
yeah, he started a
He was
Kickstarter to make home candles at home and homeschool his kids. And he literally said that he's burnt out on the truther shit. Like he can't do it anymore. So we've broken him. No, guys, we've broken him. We've done it. We broke Daniel Pratt.
Yeah. Well,
Truth
when
be
you
told,
only
the
have
lesson-
like 12 comments, when you only have 12 comments on your videos, and the ones previous had hundreds of comments, and you realize that you only have 12 comments because you've blocked everybody from leaving a comment. Yeah, it gets pretty boring when you can only interact with those people patting you on the back. And just out of curiosity, he's opening a candle shop. Literally,
Yeah.
are you
Okay, so
being
what it
serious?
is
Like
he's-
he's doing.
he's-
Well, I can
I was
imagine
thinking
his
the plan-
signature. Hold on, I can imagine that his signature scent is going to be socks, dirty socks.
So
He's
actually,
like, oh
if you
shit,
go
I'll just
listen to
sweat
his
into the
plan-
candle grease.
Yo,
Hey,
not
Faroh,
that-
welcome back.
Well, just to
what
finish
did I
this,
drop
though,
off?
it's not the worst plan. We're
Uh,
talking
what-
about
what-
Daniel
what-
plan. All I was
yeah.
going to say is it's not the worst educational plan ever if you go watch it, actually, for
No.
kids anyways.
Yeah, but I'm taking it as a win. We've broken Daniel Pratt. Welcome back, Faroh. I don't know what happened there. You just dropped out for a bit. So, I think Team Science like literally broke your connection. So, to reiterate Team's question, can you explain how an accelerometer shows 0 in freefall without using gravity?
and it shows an acceleration of 9.8 meters per second when it's resting.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And if
the
you have a
interpretation
smartphone, I'm sorry.
The interpretation of the information from the chip to the app.
Okay. Well, can I refute that real quick? Let's say, of course, I know that you've seen the Bob Nodell and the Jeranism argument over the gravimeters. So the gravimeters don't work off of any kind of programming or anything like that. It's just it's a highly sensitive accelerometer. Ignore the name. We'll use the term highly sensitive accelerometer instead of gravimeter, okay? Because that's all it is. But it's not programmed for anything, okay? It takes it uses laser interferometry to make highly precise measurements of free fall acceleration. And it can determine the differences that you find. Let's say you go near a mountain, like Fight the Flat Earth says. You go near a mountain and you might notice that the gravitational acceleration is a little bit higher there. That's because you have more mass in that region. Or you go into an area where they've already, they have oil underneath the ground, or they have a groundwater table that they can measure underneath the ground. Well, they can measure how dense the ground is underneath it, because as you decrease the density of the Earth underneath the highly sensitive accelerometer, you actually, you're altering the gravitational acceleration in that area, and it measures that difference. So it's not programmed. It does real world. In fact, to use this machine, the very, very precise ones, you actually have to take it and have it calibrated prior to measuring it at a station that knows what that has a given acceleration. So they can go to these stations and calibrate it at a station, and then they take it out into the field and they use it in the field to ensure the preciseness of the machine.
That's fair. I mean, like I say, I'm not too familiar with.
Well, your homework, Faroh Farms. Your homework after this is to go and watch Team Skeptic's new video. It's good homework. It's just watching some YouTube. Team Skeptic's new video has a great breakdown of the conversation between Bob Nodell and Jeranism, and it explains the accelerometer quite well. So, Team's fun to watch. So yeah, just go watch his new video, and that help.
I have the exact same interaction actually on one of my more recent videos too. Remember, I cut them out. And I just I shortened it up a little bit. Just got kind of the important stuff, but I got the part where he was like, "So tell me why this is like this." Anyways, good.
Right, Brainy, you had a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So it's a two-part question here. The first part is, Faroh, can you tell me how an analog telescope works? No, I'm just kidding. We went through that with Russian vids. But actually, off of that question, what I'm actually asking is kind of along those lines is, when I look through a telescope, because everything's a lie, and of course, none of the things, we're on a flat plane, so that's fair, I guess. But so surmising that when I look through a telescope, what am I looking at when I look through my telescope and I see round rotating bodies where we predict that they should be, and we can see with our own eyes until we amplify it? And zoom in, as you will, not with a P1000, obviously with a proper telescope, and you can time lapse some of these objects and literally watch them spin. In fact, I was watching Thunderfoot. I was binge watching Thunderfoot the last couple of days, and he is a bit of an astronomer himself, and he has literally filmed Jupiter and its moons rotating around it, and tracked it across the entire sky, and you can even see Jupiter rotating sideways, spinning kind of left to right or clockwise in the frame, from upright to sideways, because of our rotation at the same time as he's filming its rotation. So the thing is, when we can see all these things with our eyes, what's the answer for that? Why would we be on a different structure than everything else we can see around us, I guess, is the basis of my question.
I'd imagine if you spoke to these people, you'd probably know the answer. But looking out at what's beyond doesn't necessarily represent what we reside on.
Well, okay, but
Simple as that, really.
so if
you're witnessing things where you expect them to be and what you expect them to be, and you're witnessing things where you expect them to be and what you expect them to be, it doesn't.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, but
where we live on the top.
Okay, but let's just talk about odds here. Okay, so if I find reptiles, and we know for a fact that all reptiles are cold-blooded, and then what would be the odds that the other reptiles we find are cold-blooded? Now, I realize we're the ones that name things reptile, and we organize them based on the fact that they're cold-blooded. But I'm just for instance, animals' blood's red. Now, when you cut open an animal, do you expect to see green blood or red blood? Red blood, right? Because anytime you've ever cut anything open, all you've ever seen is red blood.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're talking kind of like a law of averages type thing, where we're looking at your analogy is animals and what we'd expect to see when we cut them open. The
average is 99.99%.
If we was going on that, right? Well, if we was going on that same logical basis, then when I look out at these planets using whatever sort of instrument, I would expect to see life thriving or some sort of
But you can't. Well, hold on a minute.
Could sustain the same sort of intelligence that ours does, and if not.
Yeah, but hold on. We've never found life on other planets, so we found life on our planet. No. So now, if we looked out and we started spotting
what
life
I'm saying is, you comparing lizards or reptiles to other reptiles. We're talking about a totally different animal here. You're talking about comparing a reptile to an alien.
It doesn't change the fact that and I'm going to finish on this. I'll get out of this because we don't want to go forever in a circle. But it doesn't change the fact that when we look through a telescope, we don't ever see flat planes anywhere or just disks rotating or flipping through the galaxy. Everything is circular, other than slightly misshapen objects.
But you say, even through your belief system of space travel and all these different things, we still haven't found life. So our nature and our reality is totally different to anything that we've seen, huh? Not in my reality, we haven't, no. But in yours we have, and we haven't found any sort of life on any other.
In what reality? In what reality do you think I live in a world where we have fucking space traveled? None of us think Star Wars is occurring or Star Trek. If you think that we think that, then you're as high.
There's probes. You don't think there's probes on Mars, then? No.
Oh yeah, that's definitely right.
A probe on Mars.
I wasn't talking about human space travel necessarily.
Right, just one sec. I want this video that I'm playing. I'm going to put the link to it in the chat. Is from Dazza the cameraman, and is filmed with the flat earther camera of choice, the P900, right? And it's obviously of Jupiter and its moons. You can see it lovely, literally see the rings on the planet there of the gases, the bands of gases.
On your feed, but you can on YouTube if you got it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you should be able to as well.
Well, we get a bit of a reduced feed from you, so it pixelates a bit.
So this is my favorite bit here, right? He takes off the exposure lock, and it goes from showing Jupiter without its moons to turn the exposure lock off, and boom, there's Jupiter's fucking moons. Look at that. That's amazing. And that was filmed with a P1000. So all these videos of badly distorted stuff. Let me just try and No, it's right. Yeah, just look at YouTube; it'll be on there. But yeah, all these videos of like planets that they're looking at through P900s that are fucking hexagons and out of focus and stuff. They just need to fucking focus their cameras, because this is with the P1000, and look, that's clearly a spherical object in the sky. Anyway, Cream Skeptic. Hi.
Yes, I'm here. Trying to make a little appearance for everybody tonight. Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Cream Skeptic? We had that knob Team Skeptic here just now. Did you see him? Oh, the face!
Team Skeptic, no. Team Skeptic's gone.
Yeah,
so, go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, go ahead. Interrupt the Twinkie. No, absolutely. It's your show. Interrupt. Forgive me, fucker.
You go, team.
Don't do that again. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say when you cut me off, Craig.
Well, I think it's about time.
I need to see if they have a good Brunkle Flerfer. Shout out to all my fellow Brunkles out there. Oh shit!
Brunkles.
I'm hit something. I have a.
What the fuck's a Brunkle?
A VR headset on. Let me.
Ask Radical here now.
You. Oh no!
I had to ask fight what was that word? Galagula.
Gish Gallop.
It's what we call it.
Gish galloping.
It's what we call a hillbilly. It's what we call a hillbilly flat earther.
Okay.
That's a Brunkle.
I had to ask him what a gish galloping is, and I was saying to my wife, I was like, I don't know, it's gish galloping or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, and then I had to put in my description of my in my Daniel Pratt video. I had to put a description that Pratt.
Aussie Jesus.
Yeah, in the description of my Daniel Pratt video, I had to put that Pratt means, idiot in the UK, just so people got the joke.
My mom lived in England. She's the one that told me. She's like, makes a lot of sense because Pratt is idiot. When she was saying
I can't believe he stopped making flat Earth videos.
I know.
He'll be back. His candles are gonna fail, and he'll be like, these fucking candles are flat. I don't know.
I want to say thank you very much to Farms for coming back for a very good discussion. Appreciate you staying serene and not screaming and shouting at me. And thank you to my two moderators for coming on and keeping it in order, and then for Cream Skeptic for making an appearance. We're going to read through the super chats and then shut this shit show down. Thank you everyone for watching, as always. It's been a lot of fun. Right, so we're 24th of June.
Hold on, wait, I gotta redeem myself. It's like, I was just gonna go like, this has been Fight, Faroh Farms, we got Team Skeptic and Brainy Beaver, and we're gonna be out after the super chat. See? I'm making up for the start.
Yeah.
See?
Well, you need to finish with remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth, okay?
There you go. Okay.
50 sex, all the sex. Do me a sexy dance, Trinky.
He just wanted to hear you say sex all the time. That's why they keep sending it to you.
Look at
hear you ask
the sexy sex dance.
Next stream I do, I'm asking for sex.
Oh yeah.
See, I wish I could convert my money to
Here's
sex
the problem.
and send you guys all the sex you could get.
Sex. Oh my god. The arms. Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah. Waving around.
Look, my hands look numb. Like, hey guys. Hi.
Hi.
That's not me. This is like me with my hands all the way up. It's like glitched out or something. Hold on, let me try to get it.
I like it when you start glitching and you just start freaking out. Your arms are flipping around.
Look at that. I moved it too fast. All right. So what kind of dance are we gonna do tonight? Okay, so we'll do.
Gotta get the Macarena going
I'm
here
doing
again.
the Karate Kid.
Hey.
If I could. Oh man, I can't lift my legs up, or else I could do like the walk loud.
I can. I love it. No! Oh my god!
On balance.
Oh my god, he's cut in half.
Do it again sooner, so isn't it more formulated or something? But,
Yeah, man. You're welcome to hang around while we do the super chats, or you can leave it up to you. But thank you for coming in. I know 50 sex from Andreas Eldritch. Star Trek experiment 1. Look at ceiling fan. Is it moving anti-clockwise? 2. Turn around, bend backwards. Which way is the fan moving now? Yeah, perspective. relative directions and all that. €2 from Niall McDonnell, shale money. That's for internal communications, please. $5 from Candoraman, FTFE, you're explaining too much. Ask for his explanation and demonstrate specifically where his logic fails. Don't just be on defensive non-stop. Yeah, I did try and get some positive evidence for the flat Earth, but I think we can come to the conclusion that there isn't any. $5 from Corey, if you climb higher, why can't you see further through more atmosphere? $5 Canadian from Reasonable Assumption, if gravity doesn't hold us all together, then what does? Not up and down, side to side, like why doesn't the edge of flat Earth fall off? And $5 more Canadian from Reasonable Assumption, what stops the material on the bottom of flat Earth from falling off? I think it's just turtles all the way down, man. $5 from Bubble Buster. If Earth was flat, increasing elevation would cause you to see less and more obstruction since you're moving further away from everything on Earth. Yep. And last one for tonight, $1.99 from Uhan Roderick. Sexy snack food for the win. Let me just make sure no more come through.
Yeah.
I wish I could change all my money to sex and then send sex, but it only let you send whatever country you're in, basically.
Yeah. All right, that's all the super chats for tonight. Thank you guys for watching. Right, Brainy, team, what you guys got coming up on your channel?
I'll be having a... Oh, go ahead, Brainy.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. I
go ahead.
didn't have an answer yet, so you
No.
go ahead. I was fucking shooting
No,
from
go
the hip
ahead.
there.
I didn't have... Look, let me tell you something. I didn't have an answer, but I always have an answer, bro. So you go ahead.
That's
Practice
where I was
on that
going,
answering
too.
from the hip. Bam. Go.
Well, okay,
Go,
so
Brady,
I'm
go.
always working on something. Right now, I am working on a lot of screaming beaver footage, and we're gonna coat me in something sticky at like 2,500 subscribers, I think,
Nice.
because we got to do that. Yeah, my wife said that she can wear a bikini and hose me down afterwards. So
Right, I vote that you coat yourself in there.
I've done that,
Oh, God,
and it's not
please.
helping.
Second.
No good.
Second.
No. It's gonna be sticky. Be sticky.
Put the
Something
nair.
sticky.
Put the
Bait.
nair
Very
on.
hairy.
We'll have a
It'll
baby
be fun
beluga
no matter.
whale on stream.
Oh, it's terrible. I'm so white once I get all that hair off too.
Oh, team, there's
Pretty
another
pale.
another super chat's come in. This one's for you. Reasonable Assumption, $5 Canadian to Team Skeptic for showing his creamy center to everyone. Ooh.
There you go, baby.
There you go,
That's all the cream.
Oh, no
All
way.
the cream for you.
Stop 1 sec. Sewer tapes. Right, Sewer Tapes in the chat
What?
has just said, I time traveled too far. And I understand what that means, because when I put this up, like 2 hours before it started, he was like one of the first people to comment in the chat, and he's like, oh, I'm going to time travel till it starts, i.e. take a nap. And he's just woken up as it's finishing. He slept too much.
No cream for you.
Clifford in the comments there. I was gonna do maple syrup. In fact, on Twitter I put it up on using maple syrup or Aunt Jemima, and I got informed by many different comments that apparently, and I have to look this up, that I'm not supposed to coat myself in that much maple syrup because it's acidic or something, and it will hurt me.
Isn't that like
got
a
literal comment.
Is that not like a capital offence in Canada? They're like decapitate you for
Maple
disrespecting maple syrup.
I was gonna do honey
Yeah.
too, but I sell
Don't
that
do
shit,
it.
and I was like, no, not like honey. And food too. People get pissed off about food. I might make sugar syrup because sugar's still food, but it's less food. I don't know.
What about
But
you, team?
You make sugar syrup, it'll be thick. Okay, go ahead.
What you got coming up, team?
I don't know. I had an answer, but now I don't.
You moved to your new studio yet? Are you in the new studio?
Okay. Yes, I'm in the new studio. I have not completed everything, the setup for everything. I'm just waiting on I'm trying to like mount some stuff. But I do have my basic setup so that I can get back to at least making videos. I want to start doing a Cream Skeptic debunks.
Dun, dun,
But I have
dun.
different characters. I'm not always going to be the Twinkie all the time. But I do have some pretty cool characters to show off to you guys and debunk shit. But it won't have an idiot meter. I'm not sure if I'm going to have an idiot meter in it or what, man. Fuck, I don't know. But I'm definitely going to be debunking things in VR. So
That sounds like a lot of fun.
unscripted, just having fun. I already have a video lined up. I'm just trying to convince my kid to quit
Hey,
being a
team.
dipshit and come record me.
So if
Yeah.
I got VR, could I join you in your VR?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm totally getting VR.
Yes.
I want VR
Yes,
too.
you can. And in fact, we have television studio is already set up. Wild Blue
Nice.
Fujiyami has
Yeah.
already set up a studio that I'm just now learning how to put in. There's a bunch of stuff going on, man. Fucking, this shit is so much fun.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know why
really
I like it
enjoying
so
YouTube
much,
right
it
now.
is.
And
I'm
we're-
enjoying it too, but I need
Yeah.
to burn my family in this house if I got to get more time. There's no other way. I don't know how everybody does it.
so now you're sorted in your studio. We're gonna get Science and Satire kicking back off.
Yeah, I figured, well, hold on. I'm kind of sitting away from the microphone. I might have to pull it closer. I can't see. Where's it at?
There could be like people in his house right now, just like stealing everything. Shh, he's on the VR. They're behind you doing this and stuff.
Don't say that, Craig. No, yeah, so Science or Satire, we'll start doing that, I guess, after July 1st. We'll start
Sounds
kicking
good.
off at least like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just do
Yeah.
random live streams.
Yeah.
And then we'll keep Monday open for you on here, and maybe we'll do like a Flat Earth Friday live stream, or I'll do my live stream on the weekend or something, because I think there's a few other, I think my controller died. Yep, look at that. Left arm's gone.
You've just lost all feeling in
It's
there.
gone. I have no left arm.
You know, it reminded me of is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You've lost your arms. No, I haven't.
Tis but a scratch.
Oh, look, it's back. Tis back. We can smile again.
Right, Brainy, why don't you take us out? Remember, say what you like, but finish it with, remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat Earth. Okay?
Brainy,
Okay.
Brainy, look at me,
All
bro.
right, I can hear
Look at me. Look at me.
What?
I have faith in you, Brainy. You got this one.
Don't fuck
Don't fuck up.
Okay. So I've been Brainy Beaver. This has been Cream Skeptic. Faroh Farms, I think, has gone now, but that was Faroh Farms, and we've got Fight the Flat Earth, and we are going to take off. But remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the Flat Earth.
Fight the flat. Fight the flat.